Okay, I think we're ready to go. So Amy's got a couple of visiting Rotarians.
Just Ken from PDX.
Ken Cranston, welcome.
Ken Cranston, thank you, welcome. And then our guests today are Riley Johnson, guest of Julie Hammerhand. Is he on Zoom? Great, hello.
I'm right here.
And Drummond Biles, guest of Keith Nelson.
I know we got some guests on Zoom, so Raina, why don't you go ahead and lead us off there?
Richard, did you say my name? I'm having a really hard time hearing. Yes, okay. I have 2 Rotary Students of the Month that are on, and we apologize for not being in person, but we are really excited to have homecoming week coming up next week, and so our seniors were part of that assembly. So we have Sam Laurel, and we have Sharon, I think I saw, oh yeah, Sharon Buckley Wheeler, and they're both on Zoom for us today. So congratulations, and we will be in person together next week.
Any other guests on Zoom now? I see Doug Brusa. Go ahead, Doug, introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I know some of you already from previous visits. Doug Brusa, OSU Foundation. Excited to hear Lisa Ballance's presentation today. And I may talk later about a workshop for nonprofits that I will offer November 6th. Thanks for having me.
Any others on Zoom? And I think we covered our room here. We got any other guests here? Okay, and I picked up garbage with Drummond the other day here out at Bay Road, so glad you're here today. So we had a big cleanup on the, what they call it, the back bay, or what is that what they call it? Yeah, wonderful. It worked out really well. Okay, let's see. We got visiting Rotarians, got guests. I want to go over a couple of things. So we're in the process. There's a big project coming up, and it's goodness, I'm at a loss here. Let's see here. Let's go to historical minute. If Keith, let's get you up here. We'll do historical minute real quick, and I'll gather my notes again.
Do I need to come up there? Or could it better? Today's Rotary Minute comes from Paul Harris's autobiography, and he wrote it in third person, which is kind of unique to read for sure. From the time Paul Harris was little, he was raised by his paternal grandmother in Wallingford, Vermont. Paul there met his first friend, a boy with the reddest hair anyone had ever seen, Fay Stafford. Fay Stafford suffered a great hardship. His folks compelled him to wear shoes, even during the long, hot summer days when going barefooted was such an exquisite pleasure. But the two raced the fields and hills together. Paul's life would have lost half its zest had he been deprived of the companionship of his red-headed friend. Fay succumbed to losing his mind and became infirmed in the Brattleboro Insane Asylum, where he eventually died. He was buried in the granite hills of old Vermont. The red-headed Vermont boy was the first of a long list of friends who have enriched and sweetened Paul's life. The foundation upon which Rotary has been built is friendship, and no less firm foundation could it have stood. Perhaps when future generations think of Rotary and to the power of friendship, they will give a passing thought to the red-headed boy of Granite Hills.
So just like that, we kind of designed that to have a little bit of history, whether it entangles Rotary or not, or past events, just whatever those kinds of events are. We're looking for folks to volunteer for that. So, you know, if you have interest, want to do that, we'd love to shout out, but coordinate with John, and he'll get you on the schedule. The same with greeters. So, you know, I know we've gotten a greeter list that had went around, and we've got quite a bit of participation on that. So keep that up. The one main thing I wanted to talk about here was the monthly periodical. So has anybody gotten this? Has anybody seen this one yet? Any particular stories that anybody wanted to mention that they remember from reading this? Well, I'll just point out a couple of things, which I think is just amazing. So generally in the beginning, they got the Rotary International's president. And I want to read this because it's kind of profound. And I swear he's been listening into what we've been doing. He's talking about your club can promote economic development. Well, we just recruited the economic development director for Lincoln County. So that's fantastic. I think that's wonderful. And he's talking about creating and expanding a vocational training opportunities for our youth. So that's wonderful. We're on the cusp of that. So we're working with that and Raina and the community college and the welding school and the nursing school. So like I said, I think that they've been listening to what we've been talking about. The other big event, that's what I was leading up to earlier. So October 24th is World Polio Day. So there's huge focus on that. Obviously, we're this close, and that's been a driving force of what we've been doing. A couple other things in here. This is kind of looks pretty barren, but that's a place in Finland. But it actually is claims to be the official hometown of Santa Claus. That's kind of interesting. And you can go and visit a Rotary club there. And it's the Rotary Club of, and I can't hardly say it, but it's Rovaniemi, I think is how they say it. But it's the Rovaniemi Santa Claus Club. Kind of interesting. One of the things I put up on the front desk, and that's something that we're working on, is every Rotarian every year. So there's a way that, you know, if you want to do contribute, help out, or do good in the world, there's an easy way to do it. Besides helping out Bob fundraise and do those things, that's wonderful too. So don't rob Peter to pay Paul. But there's a form back there at the sign-up desk every Rotarian every year. And just think about, you know, we fight disease. You know, it's not only COVID, particularly that's been the emphasis, but, you know, if you think about malaria, AIDS, diabetes, and polio. So it's a huge, huge emphasis there. There's one or two other things. There's a photography contest coming up. So any of you guys are kind of an avid photographer, there's a way to submit those. That's coming right up October 1st through December 15th. So you can participate in that. And then there's 3 or 4 stories in here about water. So one of the things I just think is really profound, they're talking about in Chicago, particularly, we all heard about Flint and how they had the lead pipe issue and all those things. But in Chicago, the water district is actually telling the residents to run their water for approximately 10 minutes to let it run. And that cycles about 10 or 11 gallons down the drain. Just think of if you're filling these jugs up. And they say that's the way you're going to avoid having lead poisoning. Well, is that a good thing? I don't, you know, so there's certainly some things there. And I think Lisa may touch on something about water today. We'll see. There's a chance. But wonderful stories in there, a lot of inspiration, a lot of ways to get going on that. There is a quarterly grants meeting. So that's been one of the things, and we're doing grants, generally funding projects or working with other clubs. There's a meeting coming up next Saturday, the 16th. 9 a.m. There's a Zoom link, and I can share that with you. So if anybody's interested in learning about that, I know we've got one going with our youth group there. We're trying to get some monies there, get that ironed out, and they've had a slow start on getting those processes understood and finalized. So we're checking in on that. And then also this Saturday, if you want to hear some wonderful speeches, we're going to hear from our district governor-elects. They're giving some speeches at 9 a.m. There's a Zoom for that, but excuse me, 5 p.m. So particularly like, Toastmasters, those kinds of things, or if you want to hear a way to present or public speak better, they're going to have some outstanding speeches there. So something to look forward to. Okay, let's look at the next step here. So we don't have Bob here. I don't see Bob anywhere. Is Lola in the crowd anywhere in the Zoom land? Does anybody want to substitute, step in for Bob or Lola? Anybody got any inspiration to levy some fines or some happy bucks? Come on. There you go. Amy, come on up, Amy. Oh.
No, I'm not doing that.
Here.
Although I am wearing orange and black, and I thought Bob would appreciate it.
There you go. There you go.
So I want to give $10. Our daughter Piper is athlete of the week for Newport High School for girls soccer.
We'll just list them that way. Anybody at this table, any happy bucks here? Sonia.
I'd like to give $25 to Keith Nelson and Mark Miranda's, Paul Harris, to thank them for taking time out of their personal lives to help me with something.
Wonderful.
I can't escape having the student of the month. That's big money, Father.
It will be big money, but I
How
don't know-
happy are you?
I don't know if when she gives her speech, she's gonna cuss me out or not. I'm sitting on the bell tower because of my mother. We don't know what's gonna happen. But I'll give $25 for that, and another 25 just to say I had a rough week of passing of my mom. And my Rotarians, the way you all reached out to me was just incredible. So 25 for that, 25 for student of the month.
Yeah, I'm gonna be $10 happy that Bob is not here today to talk about college football. So,
I know.
Anybody at the back table? Anyhow,
I have $10 and I'm really happy with 6-year-old grandson scored 3 goals in a soccer game today. And it was the right goal. But that was followed up on the way home. I took him home and he gave me a complete scientific education on why leaves are orange. I didn't know that.
wonderful, wonderful.
Well, I can't let this slide with Bob not being here. Yes, I believe that the Beavers won a football game. And wait, how did the Ducks do? Oh, we won't talk about
I
it.
think the Dutch player ranked.
Oh. That's nice.
It
So
was a good win. though.
it was a good
It
one.
was solid.
I was
A surprising one. So I'll $25 for that, but also my birthday is Sunday. I will be 66, but I feel 25, so I'll get 25 for that.
Yeah, we're just here. Any other birthdays? I'm glad to mention that, Mary Kay. There, Keith.
I can tell you why Bob Wiener isn't here.
Oh, let's hear that.
Yesterday, October 6th, was Bob Wiener's birthday. So I think whatever fine he was gonna pay by absconding or abstaining from being around to pay his fine, I would think that would be at least double when he shows up, right?
That sounds like a good plan.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. Thanks.
All, anybody second? Yeah.
All in favor? Okay, anything more for the good of the order there? I'll give $10 just to be back in person. So I think that's wonderful. And we get a lot of smiling faces. We've got a pretty good group on Zoom, so I think that's good. But just happy to be back in. And I'm glad we were able to take a little break. I think it was warranted. There were a lot of things in our county that, were a lot of concern. And so, there's still the concern. But I'm glad we're able to get back, and I know a lot of people have expressed that, and so thank you for sharing those ideas with me. So I appreciate that. Okay, well let's.
Okay, Richard,
Yes.
Richard, sorry.
Ursula.
I'd like to do some happy thoughts. I'd like to thank Sonia for organizing this Ghostbusters. It's this Saturday morning, her and Jeanette. And so I would like to donate $35 to Sonia's Paul Harris. That's what the registration fee is. And it's helping our cancer fund and helping local women with breast cancer.
Wonderful, thank you. Any others in Zoom? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to invite Diane as our club vice president, Diane Nelson, up to introduce our program. So let's hear it for Diane.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored today to introduce Dr. Lisa Ballance. She is the director of Oregon State University's Marine Mammal Institute, the endowed chair of marine mammal research, and professor of fisheries, wildlife, and conservation sciences. She has studied the ecology and conservation biology of whales, dolphins, and porpoises, and seabirds for over 30 years around the world, including the tropical Pacific and Indian Oceans, Antarctica, the Bering Sea, and Cambodia's Mekong River. Prior to joining OSU's Marine Mammal Institute, Dr. Ballance was a scientist with NOAA, where she directed NOAA's Mammal and Sea Turtle and Turtle Research Division in La Jolla, California, providing scientific research and oversight of a division consisting of 70 scientists with a $9 million annual budget, and was chief scientist of NOAA's Eastern Tropical Pacific Dolphin and Ecosystem Assessment Surveys, which provided the scientific basis for the dolphin safe label found on tuna cans in supermarkets all over the country. Dr. Ballance holds a PhD in marine ecology, a master's in science in marine science, and a bachelor's in science and biology. She has published more than 100 peer-reviewed papers, working papers, and technical reports, given the invited presentation at scientific conferences, universities, public lectures, and congressional briefings. Been awarded research funding from a wide variety of sources, including National Science Foundation, the U.S. Navy, and the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And she is the recipient of the Department of Commerce bronze and silver medals, NOAA Fisheries Supervisor of the Year, and cover features of the Association for Women in Science. Please help me welcome Dr. Lisa Ballance.
Okay, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I want to thank Diane for the kind invitation, and I echo the sentiments that it's so wonderful to attend a meeting in person. I've done so many Zoom meetings and so many Zoom presentations, so it's really wonderful to be here in person. Thank you again. I'm going to be cognizant of the time, so I will look at my cell phone here only for that reason, and let you know that I'm thrilled to be here to give you a 15-minute overview of Oregon State University's Marine Mammal Institute. And I'm going to start my overview with a history lesson. And I'll go all the way back to the beginning of Oregon State University's Marine Mammal Institute. That dates to the year 1973, when Dr. Bruce Mate was hired as an assistant professor at Oregon State University. I know a number of you, maybe many of you, and perhaps even all of you know Bruce Mate personally or by reputation. He is, in fact, a huge personality, both personally and professionally. And again, his history with OSU's Marine Mammal Institute dates to 1973. 2 years later, he began his what would be famous research on animal-borne tags by placing a radio tag, the first ever, on a seal. 2 years later, he placed a radio tag on the first whale, and then 10 years after that, he placed a satellite tag on whales. That was back in 1989, when this was indeed very new technology, and I will tell you a little bit more about his legacy with satellite tagging of whales in a moment. Fast forward to the year 2006, the Marine Mammal Institute was created under Bruce's direction, and a number of additional professors were hired. And then, not quite 15 years subsequently, Bruce decided to retire, although I will say that he remains with the Marine Mammal Institute and with OSU as an emeritus professor, and I'm very grateful for that. And I was hired as the new director of the Marine Mammal Institute. And I was telling a couple of people at my table earlier that next week is my 2-year anniversary here. Thank you. Diane mentioned, actually went into great detail on my bio. Thank you for that kind introduction. I just wanted to reiterate that there are essentially 3 things that I wanted you to know about me at this point, aside from this photo taken in 2005. It's definitely one of the highlights of my professional career working on Antarctic killer whales. But as Diane mentioned, prior to coming here, I spent an entire career with NOAA. I was a marine ecologist with NOAA for 30 years, directed the Marine Mammal and Turtle Research Division. So I view my career here as essentially a second career, second profession for me, for which I'm very grateful. The second thing I wanted you to know about my history is that I have a deep history with the Dolphin Safe label on tuna cans that you see in the grocery store. I was the chief scientist of the research that did the science underlying that Dolphin Safe label. Fascinating story, left a big mark on me. And then the third thing that you may not know is that I'm a card-carrying seabird biologist. I got my PhD working on tropical seabirds. This is my favorite species of seabird, the red-footed booby. They feed aerially by catching flying fish in midair. Pretty spectacular stuff. But back to the Marine Mammal Institute. Our mission is to integrate research, graduate education, and outreach to advance our knowledge of marine mammals, train the next generation of professionals, and engage with stakeholders to ensure that these animals and their ecosystems are always healthy. Our principles and goals are scientific rigor, basic research with strong links to applied science, changing the course of lives for OSU students at all levels and in all fields, contributing to communities from local to international, and conducting research at a global scale, having a global impact. Now, without a doubt, the Marine Mammal Institute is a center of excellence for marine mammal science. It has been for a very long time. It was when I came here. That was part of the reason I was so excited to take this position. I was talking earlier about the satellite tags that Bruce Mate pioneered, placing them on whales. That was our early science legacy, and it has been indeed a lasting science legacy. Whale-borne satellite tags. We are global leaders in that technology and the science that results. And I want to just show you a snippet of what I call cool science. This is an animation. What you see here is the Eastern Pacific. The United States West Coast is here, Canada up here, the Aleutian Islands chain, Baja California. Here's Hawaii, way out here. And in this animation, what you'll see are dots and colored lines. Each line begins at the place where we placed a satellite tag on an individual humpback whale. And the line that follows shows you where those humpback whales went. The colors are different populations genetically distinct of these humpback whales. And so you'll notice a few things. One thing that you notice is that these humpback whales are what we call transboundary. They do cross the oceans at ocean basin levels. You can see quite a few moving from Hawaii up to Canada and back. Quite a few moving all along the US West Coast and down into Mexico. So they travel great vast distances. And the other thing you'll notice is that not all animals that are tagged in a single location go to the same place. So there's a fair bit of individual variation in where they go. A lot of interesting implications scientifically associated with this research, but I just wanted to show you this because it's what I call cool science. We actually do quite a bit more in addition to our tagging. This is Professor Daniel Palacios, and he leads our whale habitat ecology and telemetry lab. Dr. Palacios inherited Bruce's tagging legacy, the technology, and the data sets, and he has gone on to further refine his vision, studying not only movement and migration patterns of these tagged whales, but using those data to identify critical habitat and exposure to anthropogenic risks. Here's another of our professors, Dr. Scott Baker, who leads the Cetacean Conservation and Genomics Laboratory. Scott and his colleagues use molecular genetics on dolphins, the smallest dolphins, the largest whales, and everything in between to reconstruct the past, understand the present, and conserve the future. This is Dr. Lee Torres. Professor Torres leads the Geospatial Ecology of Marine Megafauna Lab, and she studies ecology, health, and distribution, mostly of whales, with a focus on mitigating space use conflicts with human activities. This is Jim Rice, who is the coordinator of the Oregon Marine Mammal Stranding Network and based right here, a part of the Marine Mammal Institute. He conducts scientific investigation of marine mammal strandings and welfare of stranded live marine mammals. And I am thrilled to be able to announce our newest tenure track professor, Professor Mauricio Cantor, who just began with our institute in August. Dr. Cantor studies behavioral ecology of marine mammals as well as other animals. He applies this to individual animals, communities of animals, and entire marine ecosystems. And in December, we will get yet another tenure track professor, Dr. Kate Stafford, who uses acoustics as a tool to listen to the ocean, and her focus is on polar ecosystems and threatened large whales. Finally, the Institute also includes a number of other individual principal investigators, each of which conducts research individually and collaboratively with our Institute. So all told, we are 5 tenure track professors with their entire labs. We have the coordinator, the Oregon Marine Mammal Stranding Network, and 9 additional principal investigators. So we are a rather large entity of scientists, and I want to take just a few more minutes to give you 3 more examples of the cool science we do. Here's one. We conduct weekly aerial surveys that are piggybacked aboard U.S. Coast Guard helicopters. And this you can see is Craig looking out the open door of the helicopter. These surveys provide data on whale and dolphin abundance. This is a fin whale you can see blowing there, and those splashes are Dall's porpoise that are swimming in front of that whale. These data provide information on abundance and distribution of these animals in Oregon waters. Cool stuff, and it's cool science with impact. As everyone here likely knows, whale entanglement in fishing gear is a problem. And these data allow us to assess the overlap between whales and fishing hotspots. That allows us to actively minimize negative impacts of that overlap. And these are negative impacts not only on the whales, but also on fisheries. We want to improve the situation for both of those. Here's another example of our cool science. Seawater contains DNA from all of the animals that are swimming around in it. And that includes whales and dolphins. And our Cetacean Conservation and Genomics Laboratory has developed a reference library of DNA sequences that allow us to identify whales and dolphins from the DNA in that water, even the world's most rarest whale. The impact here is that environmental DNA, what we call eDNA for short, floating around in that water, it offers a powerful new approach to assess marine biodiversity and to better understand the distribution of rare species just by collecting a jar of water. And this is relevant even for water off Oregon. I'll talk about that in a moment. And then my third example of cool science is our use of drones and underwater GoPro cameras to provide new perspectives on gray whale feeding. So that first bit of video was drone footage. Here is underwater footage. This is what a gray whale sees when it's underwater. There's the gray whale swimming by our GoPro. We study these gray whales right here, right out underneath the bridge, all along the coast. From Depot Bay down to Waldport and everywhere in between, to study gray whale feeding. Here's a drone, some more drone video of a gray whale coming to surface, more underwater footage. Using these data, not only can we identify what the animals are eating, but we can use these drone images to, as you can see here, to look at the size and shape of that whale, and we can actually measure how fat it is and use that as a proxy for health. The impact here is that we can link those data with anthropogenic stressors like ocean noise. We can link it with prey abundance, vessel traffic, and thereby obtain an improved understanding of the impacts of those stressors on these distinct populations of gray whales along our coast. Okay, I've spoken quite a bit about the professors and what they do in our institute. I don't want to forget their small armies of associated scientists, and this is mostly in the form of graduate students and postdocs, and we have a growing and thriving community of grad students and postdocs. In fact, we currently have 9 master's students, 7 doctorate students, and 3 postdoctorates, with 2 joining in the near future. We've experienced a huge amount of growth. This fall alone, 8 new students are joining us, and we're very happy about that. We also have our own research vessel. This is pretty unprecedented for an institute. It's the Pacific Storm. As many of you are familiar with the Pacific Storm, seeing her at the bayfront here with alongside our commercial fleet. The Pacific Storm was actually a gift to the Marine Mammal Institute. It was gifted to us by a retiring commercial fisherman in Coos Bay. An extraordinary gift. She's an 84-foot steel-hulled vessel built as a commercial trawler. We refitted her to be a research vessel, and she goes out to sea a lot to conduct research and do education. In fact, she's out at sea today taking a group of high school students out under the bridge and allowing them to learn how to collect data from the sea. I myself just got back from a month aboard the Pacific Storm. That's a seminar in and of itself, but I want to give you a little teaser. This is an animal that we found 197 miles west of the Columbia River mouth. It's an animal that has only been seen alive once in the wild ever, and that also was in Oregon waters. Just again, a teaser to let you know that we did some pretty world-class significant science right here in Oregon waters on board this vessel. And I can talk more about that later on if any of you are interested. In addition to our research vessel, we have a small fleet of small boats. This is another drone shot. You can see the gray whale down there in the lower right-hand corner. And this is one of our small boats, Ruby, on the left-hand side. We favor what are known as rigid hulled inflatable boats. They have inflatable pontoons, but rigid solid hulls. And we abbreviate that as ribs. In addition to Ruby, we have 3 other favorites. Their names are prime rib, spare rib, and barbecue rib. And of course, we have the new Gladys Valley Marine Studies building, and we are absolutely thrilled to have that building. Here too, I could give an entire seminar on this building, and many of us at Hatfield have done so. I just want to mention briefly just a few things about it. First, it's an impressive feat of engineering. Many of you were probably here during the construction of the building. I missed that, although I did tune in on the real live camera to see how it was going. I'm also aware that there was a fair bit of controversy associated with that building. Nevertheless, it has been designed to withstand a magnitude 9 earthquake, and that ramp up there is intended to allow about 1,000 people to access the roof should such a cascade event happen, where on the roof 1,000 people could shelter with food and water and keep warm for the better part of 1 week. It also has an incredibly futuristic design, and by that I mean a design that is
intended to facilitate informal interactions and collaboration. That's essentially a think tank mentality, the stuff of creativity and innovation, which is all about what science excellence is. We also have the latest and greatest technologies built into the building, not only for our science, but also for teaching. And I wanted to mention the Innovation Laboratory, or the iLab. I see that Drummond, Dr. Biles, who was here just a few moments ago as a guest, had to leave. I know he had a 1 o'clock meeting that he had to run out for, but he is our new director of the iLab. It's a space that is created essentially with one purpose, and that is to enable people to design and build new things to help us do creative science. So we're extremely excited about using that. This gives me a really nice opportunity to thank Diane and Keith Nelson. Here they are inside the Innovation Lab with Mark Farley donating a Milwaukee power drill and driver kit. And it's donations like that that are really helpful, invaluable to us, in fact, as we move forward with our science. For the Marine Mammal Institute, this building represents the first consolidation of our people ever since we became an institute. Prior to this building, we were spread all across the Hatfield campus in 5 different buildings, which actually doesn't sound like a big block, but it actually is. If you can't see your colleagues on a regular basis, you're not able to collaborate and brainstorm as effectively. So we are all located on the top floor of this building and just now starting to move in. This building therefore represents an unparalleled opportunity for new synergies within and external to MMI. So we're so thrilled about it. This is my last slide. I've spent this time telling you about the professors, the students and postdocs, the assets that we have to be able to do the cool science that we do with the big impact. And there's one more critical piece to that success, and that is our donors. The Marine Mammal Institute has over 1,000 individuals that have provided gifts of various shapes, sizes, and amounts. We have a sizable endowment, and that has enabled our success to a great extent. We have 4 graduate student fellowships, a couple of ARCS scholarships. Many people have gone on our annual Baja gray whale trips and given donations to our institute. I mentioned the Pacific Storm that was gifted to us. And then finally, many of you have seen, and some of you may even have, Oregon gray whale license plates. $35 of each of those plates comes to support the projects that we do at the Institute. And the project that I just returned from on the Pacific Storm in September, where we made that amazing sighting of that rare whale, that was partially funded by gray whale license plates. So thanks to our donors. And for that, this is my closing thought. Together, we are changing the future. Again, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to speak with all of you, and thank you.
Do you have any questions for Lisa?
Yeah. Yeah, hi, Lisa. I want to let you know, I just recently on TV watched a documentary involving the Pacific Storm and search for a baby blue whale. And that was just fascinating, so I was real curious about it. And how is it, how do you fund that? That can't be cheap to do that. And then the other question is just, what do you call that whale that you discovered west of the coast?
Okay, super.
So first, a little bit about Pacific Storm. Yes, she has been, that documentary on the blue whale was taken, if I'm not mistaken, down off the Costa Rica Dome. So the Pacific Storm is no coastal entity. She goes far and wide, from the 100 or 200 miles off Costa Rica. She's been in the Bering Sea and everywhere in between. You're right, it's not inexpensive to operate and maintain a vessel that size. How do we pay for it? A variety of ways. We charter her out to other professors within OSU, professors externally. For example, you might have heard of PacWave here. PacWave, we are very anxious and have supported the PacWave project. PacWave has money to do the work that they do if they need vessels. And so the charter fees pay for the operation. And then we have philanthropic donations that go a long way for that. And then the second question, what do we call that whale? The common name is hub-speaked whale. Mesoplodon carl-hubbsi is the Latin name. It's a very poorly known whale. The species was described based on a dead animal that washed ashore. As I said, before our trip, it had only been seen alive in the wild once. We know practically nothing about it, but now I know where to go to learn more about it. I know what it sounds like. I know what it looks like. And we got a skin biopsy sample, so we know what the DNA is. So I'm looking forward to going back on the Pacific Storm.
Back in the back, Mark.
A couple years ago, I went on the whale watching trip to Baja California. Is that going to be happening again?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. And thanks for, that part of the cost was a donation to the Institute. We're very, very grateful to that. And yes, for the first time last year, since that trip has begun, we had to cancel it because of COVID. We will be going back this next March. We're going to be doing 2 back-to-back trips because of high interest. And Bruce and Mary Lou, I've invited them to join me on one of those. They will be joining. I know that Mary Lou in particular wants to give this over to me, but they are big personalities, so we're anxious to have them join us. And yes, we will be going back annually from now on, barring any other COVID-like challenge.
All right.
Might be a loaded question for your first time here. What do you find to be the most exciting about the opportunity / challenge that it is to have so many different uses of the Pacific Ocean co-located at Newport with our commercial fisheries and with NOAA and research? What is the best or most challenging part about sharing the water, sharing the space and the resources here?
Oh, I love that question. So when I was with NOAA, I loved working there. I loved my colleagues. I loved the mission. I thought I was going to retire there. I had a lot of friends. I had family in San Diego, and I was never expecting to take this job. I applied for it with some trepidation because I wasn't sure I would take it even if they offered it to me. Well, so here I am.
Spoiler alert.
And a big reason I took this job was the opportunity that it represented by being in Newport. And by that specifically, what I mean is it's absolutely thrilling to have a world-class marine research and education institute co-located with a thriving commercial fishing industry. Those two things often conflict. And I think learning about those two entities and working with bringing them together, that is the solution to a lot of the problems that we face in the marine realm. I'm dealing with research associated with extinction of 2 species. One, the Yangtze River dolphin that is already extinct. Another one is the vaquita, the tiny little porpoise that's endemic to the northern Gulf of California in Mexico. Those 2 extinctions are driven by the inability of conservation biologists to work with communities that need to use those marine ecosystems for other reasons. And so I'm thrilled about, I embrace the conflict. I'm thrilled about learning, working with the commercial fishing industry, and I'm thrilled with bringing our graduate students in and asking, and just sort of learning by stumbling around. But Newport is a tight community, as I have sort of witnessed virtually during the last 2 years. I'm looking forward to getting to know people more directly. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I think it's the right way to go, and it's a big reason why I'm here.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. That was wonderful. And I often think that we don't realize what assets are here or what we have, you know, just like that, or when Noah came here, all those things and that impact, and, you know, all the students that are coming, and then you talked about all the professors and all that. I think it's just wonderful. So thank you for sharing that. In your name, we fight. So our main goal, or one of our main objectives, is to eradicate polio. So in your name, we're going to actually vaccinate 50 children against polio. So it's a thing that we do. So thank you. Small bit of appreciation. Next, we've got, if you're a newer member and you haven't gotten a plaque, I have some things up here. I don't see necessarily anybody here, but potentially there's something up here for you. I know I see some folks on Zoom. I want to get that to you. So there's a couple of things that we get out, and then we are going to incorporate a little bit of time where you'll be able to come up and talk, introduce yourself, tell us about you, get to know you, because we've had a gap. You know, we want to get to know those folks and understand those things. So, okay, let's get secretary report. So we'll have Jim up here for a secretary report.
Thank you very much, President Richard. We've got about over 20 in the room. We've got another 20 on Zoom, well over 40, well over 50% attendance. It's remarkable. Jim Wendell is membership incentive $10. He is on Zoom. So big winner, Jim Wendell. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sonia for the 50-50 raffle.
Thank you very much, Jim. So we have $75 in the pot today. So that would be half of that. I think it's $37.50 if I am still doing math correctly. So let's see who the big winner of today's 50-50 is. You guys got your tickets ready? All right, get them ready because you don't need them. Ken. All right, and so along with $37.50. Ken, we also have, Richard has donated a medallion that sticks to your car or wherever you want to. I guess I'm showing it to the microphone. And a sticker, a Rotary sticker. So let's go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and do it, and whoever, you can choose which one you want, whoever wins the first one. Looks like it's gonna be Ken. Which one do you want? You're a big winner today. You won
again.
All right. So now let's do for the nice, proud to be a Rotarian bumper sticker, and it's Ken. It's gonna be Patty. All right. Thank you very much.
Richard?
Yes.
Give that to the Marine Institute, and I'll pass it $10. So $20 to the Marine Institute.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Good job. Thank you, Jim.
Can't see without glasses.
Ken.
If that's possible, transfer that $37.50 to the Marine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Since we're being really generous, any other calls out for that? Any hands up on Zoom? Okay. Last thing, next week's program, I know there was a change. So John, do you know what the next week's program is?
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking about the Lincoln County Foundation. And then also the greeters next week is Laura Kimberly, who lost her mom this week also, and then Lola Jones. So
wonderful.
I'll probably be just Lola.
put me down for Laura.
Okay. Are you qualified?
I believe that I have a certificate that you signed.
Wonderful. Jim?
Do we have 2 minutes for Doug Brusa?
Yes.
Okay.
Doug, take the floor.
Hey, thank you. I'll be brief. Delighted to hear Lisa's presentation. We work together, but it's fun for me to see her present. About 4 Saturdays from now at the Pacific Maritime Heritage Center. So Saturday, November 6th, from 9 a.m. to noon, I will offer a fundraising workshop. And the idea is for local nonprofits who may have fundraising as part of their needs, but maybe haven't had enough training. So I've done this before. We have room for about 12 or 15 people. And for any local nonprofits who want to show up and engage in some training of that kind, we'll be doing it on November 6th. And thanks to Diane and Sonia for actually organizing most of that.
Thanks, Doug. Last thing, I know I've talked about this. We had a meeting recently. We had Mark has designed a advisory committee for the treasurer, so we're working on that. We had a board meeting recently and we approved some things there. And then I've got next week a past presidents club meeting. So that's going to be Zoom. It'll probably stay Zoom for a while. So look for that. I'll be getting those out. And then we're, let's see here. I know there's one other thing. Oh, Mark is working on, and I'm kind of disclosed that he's going to be creating a way to pay expenses, bills, and membership fees online. So look forward to that. And it should make it a whole lot easier, less work, and then try to keep Mark in that treasurer seat for a little while longer is the goal there for us. So, okay, any other last minute announcements? Sonia.
Since we're late already anyway, this Saturday, as you mentioned before, is the Coastbusters Walk. This is, of course, a Rotary sponsored event. The walk kicks off at 9 a.m. Registration starts at 8 a.m. at the Newport High School track. We have already raised a little bit over, I believe, a little bit over $9,000. We have 96 walkers registered as of last night, and I'm looking at this morning. But so we're doing great. If you really are itching to get up early Saturday morning, we'll be meeting at 7 a.m. at the track set up. We'd love to always have more help. So thank you all for your support.
Anything from anybody on Zoom? Any last minute announcements? Okay, Amy, would you lead us in the 5-way test?
Yes. First, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?